We're back. Time for another edition of the Carolina Insider Rapid Reactions Edition. Jones and Adam here with you. And Adam, not much fun tonight in the Smith Center if you love the Tar Heels. Duke was the better team from the start. They played better. They were engaged. They shot well. They defended well. The first 10 minutes, absolute dominant performance from the Blue Devils, and Carolina was in major catch-up mode after that. Tar Heels scratched back in it, but we're so far down after the beginning of the game, it was hard to get back in.
Duke was just better in every single way, every category. Duke was better. If you know Carolina basketball, I think maybe you saw a little glimmer at the end of the first half and thought, well, perhaps if Carolina could get this thing under 10 at the break. And they got it down to 11, but then, boy, the opening segment of the second half was determinative. Duke comes out and scores 10 quick points. Carolina calls timeout, and that was essentially it.
Adam, the Tar Heels still have a long way to go. There's 8 games left. They've got 4 road games, 4 home games, still a lot of basketball to play, and the Tar Heels are 16-7 and 8-4 in conference play in the top third of the league. But there was a significant gap tonight, and Duke has had that gap with everybody they've played, I think, in the conference, although there have been a couple games where they have been tripped up. But there was a gap tonight between the Blue Devils and the Tar Heels.
At multiple positions. It wasn't just that Duke had one superstar player who was better than what Carolina was putting on the court. Duke was better all over the court, and they did what they were trying to do better. Carolina likes to control the inside game. They like to control rebounding. Well, Duke dominated the backboards. Carolina likes to shoot three-pointers this season. They didn't do that very well, and Duke made some. So it was just a thorough defeat. There's really no two ways about it. Duke was better than Carolina on Saturday night.
Had a chance to catch up with Hubert Davis after the game. We'll go to that interview, come back. We'll get you set for the upcoming week for the Tar Heels after that. Let's get to my conversation with Coach Davis after Duke's win in Chapel Hill. Hey guys, thanks. Coach is in here with me. We're going to get him seated here in just a second. Appreciate you hanging out with me. And Coach, thank you for hanging on there as we were having a couple of technical problems. But long night tonight, certainly. Duke got off to that great first 10 minutes, led 31-8 after those first 10 minutes, and obviously uphill battle after that. Your thoughts on tonight's action?
Well, they punched us in the nose at the beginning of the game and then at the beginning of the second half. And at the end of the day, you know, from a defensive standpoint, we only had one guy that could guard Paulo and AJ, and that was Leaky, and we couldn't split them in half. And, you know, Leaky started off on AJ, and Paulo really established himself, and then we switched him on Paulo, and then AJ established himself on the offensive end. And so you have to tip your hat to those are, you know, 2 pretty good players. And I really believe that the start of the game and the start of the second half was a determining factor for us. On both ends of the floor, they just took a shot against us, and we were playing catch-up pretty much the entire game.
Duke's been pretty darn good defensively for a large majority of the season. Felt like it was hard to get good shots, especially in that first half.
It wasn't just hard to get good shots. It was hard to get into our offense. They pressure, you know, throughout the year, at times we've been really bothered by pressure. Their pressure bothered us, even from our guards that were dribbling the ball up the floor. They couldn't create space just to get us into their offense. You know, one of the things that we talked about was, you know, player movement and ball movement and changing sides of the floor. And when you do that, you give the defense a chance to make a mistake. We couldn't even make 3 passes. So, you know, in terms of running plays, in terms of movement, being able to move them from side to side, and then being able to attack, we couldn't do that. And then that turned us into a one-on-one team, and you know, against a good defensive team that doesn't have to move a lot, and they just can sit in places in one-on-one situations. We weren't getting the shots that we wanted to get, and we really struggled.
There's so much that always goes into this game, but it is just one game, and you guys have a lot more still upcoming. How do you try and get off the mat after this one on what I know was a disappointing evening?
Well, it's not, you know, how do you try to get off the mat? You get off the mat. That's the exact same thing that I told the guys in the locker room. There's only 2 choices. You have the choice of staying down on the mat and whining, complaining, and pointing fingers and making excuses, or you can get up and get off the mat. And I said, those are your only two choices. I'm already off the mat. And so my hope and my expectation is everybody in this locker room will do the same. I said, we can learn from this. I said, every time that we have gotten knocked down, we have gotten back up, and we have learned from it, and we have grown from it, and we've become better. And I said, we just got to get better from this and in preparation for our game on Tuesday, but also for the remainder of the season.
Duke wins it tonight, guys, 87-67. That's Hubert Davis in the Continental Tire Coach's Corner. Coach, thanks for your time, and we'll see you this upcoming week.
All right. Thank you very much, Jones. Appreciate it.
All right, guys, that's Coach Davis in the Continental Tire Coach's Corner. So Tar Heels have to, as Coach Davis and I talked about there a moment ago, get up off the mat, and the first opportunity to do that is a pretty quick opportunity. It is Tuesday against Clemson. That game is now scheduled for 6. It was originally scheduled for 9 o'clock. You may see that if you have an older schedule from the beginning of the season. That game has moved from 9 o'clock to 6 o'clock. And Adam, there's a couple of games here over this final stretch. The at Clemson game, at Virginia Tech, who got another big win tonight on Saturday, at NC State, Florida State at home. These are some key games here down the stretch for the Tar Heels that see comparable teams as far as their records and their placement that they need some wins.
And Duke kind of capped off this stretch here in the middle of the season that we were talking about that had so many games in such a small amount of time. And so I think the thinking all along has been, well, after that Duke game, you can take a breath. Well, if you take a breath and lose at Clemson, the season has gotten much more challenging. Clemson has got some injury problems. They're missing a key player, but very good Tar Heel teams have struggled in Little John Coliseum. So this is not one of those Carolina teams that can have an off night and win. Tuesday night's going to be an important night, and we're going to learn a lot about this Carolina team with how they're able to pull it together over the next 72 hours.
So Tuesday in Clemson, Saturday back at home against Florida State, the next two for the Tar Heels. Tonight, though, a whole bunch of Duke in the Smith Center as the Blue Devils win by 20. Thanks for being with us here on the Carolina Insider.